Hand loaders, bullet casters, welcome back to my bench, and I'm coming back with some excitement because I've got something I'm really looking forward to sharing with you. Behold right here, folks, I have the RCBS primer tool, and I've got it just kind of chalked in some cedar block, because this way I can put it in my vise, and I'm going to do a little bit of demonstration with it, but this is not my permanent method of having it mounted. So those of you who are already pretty familiar with the kind of work I do know that every once in a while I do a sort of review on the tools and equipment I use, and I've said at least one time before that I am not going to review something that I absolutely do not like. So if I'm reviewing it, go ahead and figure, hey, you know, Leadsmith there, he likes that tool. But before we go too much further, a few changes have happened while I've been gone. One, I would love to hear your feedback on the video quality of this video. I'm using a new camera. I've also upgraded my computer, so I would love to hear your thoughts with the differences that you see. But I also started a new channel. Yes, Dad Skills University. Come on, guys, you have to subscribe. I'm doing my best Kilroy impression. Dad Skills University is not really firearms related like this channel is, but it's a very hands-on channel about all the skills that people tend to learn the hard way in life, or perhaps they learn from their fathers. It's skills to pass on. I want to make sure that this channel is able to grow. I know this is a big hands-on community, and I'm asking your support, folks. Once again, Dad Skills University, my handle, Leadsmith4445. I want to give a thanks to Jesse B Outdoors. He's got a video on this topic. I'm throwing up a card. I also want to give a thanks to Walter Bunning, who has also a great video on this, and I want to put up a card. Now, the two of them bring up some very important points that I just have no desire to try to cover because they've already done it so well. And if you're looking at this particular tool as something you might add to your bench, which means you're adding it to your lifestyle, then by all means go ahead, check their videos out, check all the other ones, and I hope you'll watch this one, and I hope it'll be very informative. The reason that I decided to do this, I have always traditionally primed my cases on the press, be it my Dillon or my single stage. I've always just felt like, well, if the priming feature is there, it makes sense to use it. I did a review on a Lyman single stage press, and I'll throw a card up for that too. And what I found as the weakest point was the priming system. So a lot of great commenters chimed in and said, hey, Leadsmith, you really got to go ahead and figure that maybe there's other priming methods that you'll like. So think about it, give it a shot. So I did, and here we have now the RCBS priming system. Curiosity is ultimately what brought me here. Ease of use, pure joy to prime cases, and for crying out loud, the aesthetics, they're just nice. Has all sold me on keeping this as my mainstay for priming cases. Now, really and truly, folks, there's not a single thing that I can say is a true con about this little tool here. However, because I do like to make sure that the good, the bad, the ugly is covered, what I am going to point out is that while this is an incredibly simple to use system for mounting primers efficiently, it really does require a bench. It is intended to be set up in a permanent fashion. However, there are ways around that. As you saw, I have this little block of wood. It's chalked up in the vise, and this would work just fine. However, if you're looking for a portable method, that is a little bit cumbersome, and there's probably some other options out there for you. That really being the only true con, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next thing, which I believe is just a quirk. Through the action of this, you can see how this primer tube sort of just seems to flop back and forth. Now, there are ways around this to me, this is not a problem. It's sort of just a hallmark of the system. It does absolutely nothing to affect efficiency. Now, as for the quirk that I stated about this little primer tube, look no further than the video from Walter Bunning. He can really help you mitigate some of the awkwardness of this if you're the type of person that's easily annoyed with that sort of thing. But his video is great for that topic. Now, when you receive this tool, it's going to come packaged nicely in this box here, this nice RCBS box. It'll come with instructions in your priming tools and accessories sheet, along with a safety reminder about handling primers. Additionally, in order for this system to work, you're going to need the little primer rams, which you've probably seen before from using other similar items. You might have found rams like these on some of the single stage presses that you've used. You may have also run across priming tubes like this on other presses, sort of like the Lyman Victory single stage, the Lyman All-American 8. The Dillon Progressive presses also use a similar system of the priming tube. Another feature that was a bit of a breath of fresh air for me was the very fact we have on this statement down here, Made in USA. I purchased this probably about 2 years ago, and I can only hope that the same is still true. Now, if you've ever spent any time trying to go from large primers to small primers with a lot of these setups that are already built into your single stage, your turrets, and your progressive presses, you know that's a bit of a headache. And sometimes people feel like they'd rather just leave one press set up for large, another press set up for small. It's super simple to select which one you would like to use. For example, I'm going to select the shell holder, an RCBS number 18 shell holder, which, by the way, I found that Lee shell holders work great. That's something to be mindful of in some situations. If you're coming from a Lee setup, you're already set up. If you're coming from RCBS, and clearly you're set up for RCBS. So we have our shell holder, large primer ram. It just drops right in, and we use our large primer tube. This is now set up for a large primer. Okay, now let's say that I am going to set up for 9mm or 38 special. All I need to do is change out my shell holder, drop in the small shell holder, and put in the small primer tube. See how quick and easy this was, folks? Not a whole lot there. For those of you who would like to see the mechanics of this tool, I've turned it around so that you can get a view of the priming ram going up and down. This portion where a primer will then be seated into the priming ram. Handle goes up. A case can now be slid in place, and the primer seats. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you how to load this. Some of you may already be familiar with using a system like this. I'm going to take 5 primers, and I think 5 will be a sufficient number to load up just a sort of show. Now, if you've ever used one of these, you know that the rib side is the side that you put the primers in, and when you shake it up a little bit, the primers will all go anvil side up or shiny side down. The next step is to take your smooth one, lay it over, and now we flip it. So now we're shiny side up. We'll take our large priming tube. And one thing I've noticed that a lot of reviewers say about this is they don't like how tight the end of this is. I don't see it as a problem, folks. In fact, if it's not tight, it's going to be kind of hard for it to do the job. So now I've got 5 primers that are loaded up. I have my pin in place so that they can't come out. And one sort of deal that we almost always will run into here, if we can focus in, is we always tend to get one stuck right there. That seems to be characteristic of the system, which is across all brands, not just RCBS. It's just a part of how this system functions. I don't consider it a downfall. You just have to know about it in order to work with it. And the good thing about this setup is it doesn't really appear to be left-handed or right-handed specific. So we'll go ahead and put in the shell holder for 44. Of course, we got our large primer ram right here. And just as you saw earlier, I had, and yes, see that guy? He's stuck in there. That's normal. I'm going to show you how to work with that. We're going to go ahead and now pull the pin, and those primers can begin to fall down the tube. In order to solve the problem of primer right here sticking out, we're just going to push it right on through, and I'm actually using the weight from my Dillon machine. Okay, let's go ahead and prime some cases. First step, lower the lever. That will bring the tube straight over the ram and drop a primer in place. We'll now lower the ram, install the case, and it doesn't take too much pressure, and we'll just press down. Hardly any pressure at all was needed. And now we have a perfectly pressed in primer. So you can see now where I keep the tool mounted permanently on the bench. It resides pretty close to this wall. It's somewhat in a cornered area, so it would be very difficult for me to do the same type of review and demonstration with it in its normal spot. However, it's really very simple to operate. Right here, I'm right-handed, but I operate it left-handed. No problems there at all. You might want to keep an eye out for how much room you have for the primer tube. It'd be nice if they sold them a little shorter. These tubes hold 100. I think if you're running single stage, 50 is probably decent enough. But as you see right here, this is where the top of the primer tube is. So I've got the room. There's no issue there. I've got enough room to change it out. It's very simple. The lever is another area. Do you have enough room to work with this large lever sticking out? Originally, I was going to kind of list this as maybe a quirk. Not exactly a con, but a quirk. But as I thought about it, all the levers for my presses stick out, and I don't ever have an issue with that. So no, this is not an issue for me either. It's just a little bit different. You do need to make sure that it is mounted or far enough out to give the complete stroke downward. So final thoughts on the tool. The quality is there. There's no issue. I have no concerns that this will need to get replaced or parts will fail. It's very simple in design. It's very rugged. It's good quality. United States of America made. The ease of use, outstanding. I'm telling you, when I rewatch some of these parts that I have videoed here where I press the primer in, I hardly notice effort to push the lever to push the primer. Additionally, sure, there are some quirks. Everything has quirks, but if you are the type of person that is easily bothered by little idiosyncrasies, hey, check out Walter Bunning, also known as Viejo. Also, if you have questions about the strength, maybe arthritis is set in, check out Jesse B Outdoors. He's going to kind of go over some of this with you as well. Those guys are awesome. I hope you'll enjoy this video as much as theirs. Lord bless you, keep you, make his face shine upon you. Leadsmith out.